The next question, kind of dovetailing into this from Revo Man. Do we really think the Jets are the third worst team in the NFL? ESPN rankings only had the Titans and Giants worse. Vegas has us with the third lowest win total. Am I just looking at this team with rose-colored glasses? Now, my sense is I don't think the Jets are the third worst team in the league. I don't think they'll be picking in the top 3 next year. I don't think it's surprising or even unfair that the national consensus has them ranked that low. I think from a distance, they were a colossal disappointment the past 2 years, especially last year. They lost a lot of names. They lost Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams was still productive last year. Hassan Reddick, if you watch the Jets, you know how bad he was. If you didn't watch the Jets,
on the field every week.
Yeah, but if you didn't watch the Jets, you're like, well, they lost Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, Hassan Reddick, Morgan Moses,
Javon Kinlaw, $45 million man.
Yeah, Javon Kinlaw. There's other names out there, right? So, all right, so why is this team better? Now, if you watched the Jets last year, like we did, you know they were the worst coach team in the NFL, I think by a pretty comfortable margin.
Yep.
You know that the offensive line is likely to be a touch better that they're going to get credit for nationally and probably be really good. You know that even beyond Breece Hall, they should have some pop with Isaiah Davis, Braylon Allen, and other guys who could run the football. We feel confident about the offensive coordinator. We feel confident about Aaron Glenn. We just think they're going to be coached better at a baseline. There's a lot of talent and versatility in the secondary. They have 2 athletic linebackers. They still have Quinnen Williams. There's names and pieces around this team. Their division, I think, is slightly overrated league-wide. I don't think Miami is going to be all that good. I think New England will be better. Are they going to be the 10-11 win team? I think what I'm saying is I think it's reasonable to think the Jets could be like 3-3 in their division next year. I don't think they're going to be 1-5 or 0-6 in the AFC East, right? And they have games against the Saints. They have games against the Panthers. To me, the Jets feel like a 7 to 8 win team that gets better as the season goes on, with Glenn and his staff and Fields being major variables. If the Jets unlock the best of what Fields can do, and he is comfortable behind that offensive line, his legs will steal a game or two that they shouldn't. That's when you get into the conversation of like, can they really be like a 500-ish team that's really feisty? If he's just a complete disaster and like falls off the wagon, then it's like, I don't know. I mean, Tyrod's a competent person, but you're only going to get a couple games from him. So those are sort of the swing factors. You shouldn't be surprised as a Jet fan if most people think they're going to be bad. There's been less splash, which for us, and as we find refreshing and probably needed, but New England's got the popular young quarterback and the more well-known head coach candidate. Miami still has, McDaniel and Tua and more names. I don't think that's necessarily going to equate to more wins next year. So they're always going to kind of get ranked fourth in the AFC East. I don't know. I look around the conference like I think they could steal a couple of games from Miami and New England. Is Cleveland going to be better than them with whatever they're going to do at quarterback? What kind of leap are the Raiders going to take in year one under Pete Carroll? I just look around like the Titans, like it's going to be Cam Warren's rookie year. The Jaguars, like, are we sure like everything is going to be fixed there and Trevor Lawrence is actually the guy?
How about the Panthers?
Again, they're going to play the Panthers. They're going to play the Saints. Could they beat the Falcons next year? Yeah, I think they probably could on the right situation. This to me feels, it might not be in the same cadence, but I think this is going to be in many ways like a mix of 2006, 2013, and 2022 Jets season, where all those years they were either like right below, right at, or slightly above 500.
Right.
And they were generally a bit better than people expected and had their wins and losses flow in different cadences. I'm not expecting this team to be like 2007 or 2021, where they're just 4-12 and 4-13 or 3-14 and like really bad. I think they'll be well coached enough to avoid that and have still a decent amount of blue chip caliber guys with Sauce, with Garrett, with Breece, with all the offensive linemen that I'm excited to watch. So that's kind of where it sits, but I'm not surprised. I mean, I think it's them being, most people are going to pick them to go 4-13, but where's your head at on it?
Well, the old adage is basically, if you don't like it, bet against it. Yep. Right? Like if you truly think it's egregious, and if you're not a gambler, that's fine too. But yeah, I think it's a little low. It's weird, right? So the odds right now have the Titans, Jets, Giants, and Browns are the lowest win totals, all at 5.5 with varying odds. The Browns and Giants are technically the worst because if you bet over 5.5 wins for them, that's still in plus money territory for each. While the Jets 5.5 win total is kind of a phony because it's minus 155.
Yeah.
So Vegas is telling you they think the Jets will win 6 games is what they're telling you right now. And ultimately how the money piles in will affect those odds as well. My favorite win total bet, that one I've legitimately played, is a parlay of both the Jets and the Raiders. The Raiders at 6.5 wins, the Jets at 5.5 wins. I took the over on both. It's plus 176, which is pretty big number, plus 176. Yep. Because one, I think the Raiders, Pete Carroll, that's a big shot in the arm. Geno Smith, massive improvement at quarterback. They had an A-plus draft on offense between Genty, 2 offensive linemen, Jack Besh. The Raiders, I think, like, you don't hire Pete Carroll to rebuild. He's the oldest coach in the league.
Yeah.
So I think the Raiders should get to 7 wins. We'll see. I know the division's hard, but the Raiders are kind of punchy when they didn't have a quarterback. And Geno can play, as we know. So then the Jets at 5.5, like, I agree with everything you said. We're not sitting here picking the Jets to win 9 games, but five wins is low. Yeah. You just go through the process, right, of how do the Jets win less than 6 games? Well, Justin Fields is terrible, but the reality is if Fields is terrible, Tyrod plays. And yep. Tyrod's not terrible. There's things you could say for certain. Tyrod is not terrible. So, but we'll keep it to the outline of how they win less than 6 games. Fields is bad. This is one for everyone, but like there's a big injury. The defense is more of what we saw last year than the previous year. I think it'll be somewhere in the middle. I'm really disappointed with the Jets' lack of interest in adding to their run defense up front. And that is something that I've been highly critical of the draft that they blew. They definitely blew that aspect in the draft, but can coaching make them just more scheme responsible? Yes. And better year from Quinnen, Jermaine back, although we'll see how up to speed he is. I think the defense will be better than last year. And that gives you more on the side of, okay, over 5.5 wins. The most important aspect is I think they're going to be able to run the ball. And last year was horrific in terms of their inability to run the ball. So that's how you kind of fall into belief that the Jets win more than 5.5 games. It is interesting how quickly the market just jumped on being in love with the Patriots. Like the Patriots win total launched to 8.5. That's a big jump.
They're a national team.
They are a national team.
They've become a national team with being a dynasty-ish for that long.
Yep.
Dynasty is pains me to say. So there's like a want, like the Lakers or the Cowboys or the Yankees. There's like a want for them to be good. And I think they will be better without a doubt. I don't want to act like I don't think they're going to be better. I'm just not sure the roster. I'm not sure the roster made the leap in totality that I think everyone thinks it did.
They spent a ton of money, and analytically and historically, teams that win free agency get a little boost year one. It falls off after that, but you always get a boost year one. Now, they didn't land a Chris Godwin like they wanted to. They didn't land like a ton of premium talent. So the offensive line, to me, I feel like I'm on an island with this because everybody just keeps hailing their draft as an A+. And they made a lot of really good picks. There was a lot of picks in the middle rounds that I was like, damn, I wish the Jets did that, like Josh Farmer and Braden Swinson. But I don't think Will Campbell's a tackle. And they took him 4th overall, and they're playing him at tackle. So we'll see how that goes. Somebody's got to be right and somebody's got to be wrong. Or high-end tackle. If you take a tackle at 4, you better be like a borderline all-pro, not just a Kelvin Beachum. You know what I mean? And that's not who I'm comparing him to. I'm just saying it's like the classic serviceable line of left tackle that we think of. So, yeah, I don't think it's egregious. I would play the Jets over that number. The Jets kind of have the opposite of what you said. Like, people clown the Jets and laugh at the Jets, so people will bet the under on the Jets. But I think Aaron Glenn is just, I think he's going to will this team to 6 or 7 wins this year. I really do.
I don't disagree. Again, if we asked us at the live show, I think we both said 7 or 8. I think that's kind of been like roughly the consensus opinion. Some people say 9, some people say 5. There's a lot of time to beat this up and see where the roster lands. Last one, which dovetails into this, then we'll jump to War Room. This is from Davey Knuckles. Great Discord name. Apologize if this is a repeat, but now that the dust is settled, is it fair to say this offseason was pretty underwhelming? One, I want to say I get the question, right? It's a new regime. You look at all the names in free agency, you look at all these names in the draft, and look, their biggest free agent signings in order were Fields, which I think everyone was excited about and kind of expected, Brandon Stevens, which all of us are still scratching our heads about, and I guess Andre Cisco, you would say third, which we like. It is like exactly the kind of like signing they should have made. The rest of the class was like cheap meat and potatoes, like get our compensatory picks, get a good backup lineman in Myers, get a tight end with some upside and Stone Smart, throw a dart at Tyler Johnson and sign like 17 rotational defensive linemen and hope 3 of them could actually play reps. And, we see where it lands. And we took care of our own and we got Sherwood. And maybe the book's not fully written because we also took care of Garrett and Sauce and sort of reestablished ourselves as a serious organization that pays our young talent. Now, the draft, the parts of the draft that we're all excited about and we're excited about are not sexy. They drafted a tackle. They drafted a good tight end who could play on every down, and we're excited about his ability to block and catch like an 11-yard boot pass every time it's thrown to him and move the chains, and a corner with a ton of upside. You should be excited about a corner with a ton of upside, but it's a corner. I get it.
Right.
So there's a lot of like vegetables and not a lot of dessert in there. So for the first year of this regime, trying to reset what was ultimately a grotesque failure, an understandable Hail Mary that was just a total disaster from top to bottom. If we would have mapped out the worst case scenario from the moment the Jets traded for Aaron Rodgers, we literally could not have talked it through playing any worse than it did throughout the 2 years. From the injury to going 5-12 to the sort of like messy exit. I think what we've appreciated and why I wouldn't go all the way to say this has been underwhelming. I don't think it's been flashy. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. Is that I do feel there is strong potential on the culture and attitude around how this team carries their business changing for the positive. I think how they handled the Rodgers situation was a hard decision, and they handled it like adults, and they've handled it like adults. I think Glenn has the potential, it's not proven, it's nothing but potential, to bring a certain type of culture and attitude and professionalism to the building that it's been lacking. And my hope is that because he played in the league for so long and played here and scouted and coached and comes from Detroit, Woody Johnson will give him the space to do that. And there's been signs, early signs, that they are turning over more of the building than we've seen in the past. So the Jets very well may be a 7-10 team next year, but it hopefully is a 7-10 team that looks like they're at the start of being ready to be 10-7 multiple years in a row, not just like this sort of like unmitigated disaster, this one-off thing out of nowhere. So I get the question. I think they had to do a lot of dirty, not fun cleanup work this year. It's like you inherited a house, the yard was overgrown, the shed was rotting. Like you knocked the shed down, you cut the lawn. Yeah, you're like working on the roof. You still got to redo the kitchen. You still got to, you could tell I'm a homeowner. You still got to finish the basement. But I think that's like where you're at in the analogy right now. Like it's not, you're not ready to have all your, friends over for a huge celebratory party yet, but right. It's livable now. It's livable, and it's not the embarrassment on the street. So that's my analogy to close here.
I'm laughing while listening to that analogy because I think of some of the houses we looked at. And the things you talk yourself into, the longer the house buying process goes, is insane.
Yeah.
Like I looked at houses that I made offers on that needed a new roof, and some things are easier. Just if you have the money, it's easy, but you have to spend the money. Like needed fencing, needed, like you said, the basement. So I looked at houses that didn't have central air.
Okay.
Because it's wet. Like Westchester is a very old,
a lot of old.
It's an old county. Yeah. So fortunately, we landed on a house that's didn't need a ton of work, but we got really lucky. But it made me laugh. Like I was thinking of all the things that we were like, yeah, we can make that work. We can make that work. And it's when you have to actually do the groundwork, which brings us back to the Jets. It's not fun, and it does make me wonder. And I kind of want your thoughts on this, like because I'm looking at their salary cap situation, why they didn't just bite the bullet on Rodgers' full cap hit. But because they didn't spend a ton of money where they probably could have made that work this year, but they ended up splitting it. They'll have money to work with next year, but it'll be like kind of pedestrian. And then the third year is when the books are just wide open, and hopefully they have these extensions done that'll factor into that. But I mean, it's not what the fans want to hear right now, and they would never admit this. The reality with the Jets is, after how miserable the previous regime, coaching staff, and Aaron Rodgers experiment failed, the reality with the Jets is right now, Glenn's goal with Muji, I would think, and yes, I'm speaking for them, and they might disagree entirely with me, is how do we, like you said, Joe, build a respectable culture, but really just get us to be competent. And they are really going to probably push their chips in the third year. Like, they are not, there's no quick fix here. And a lot of fans, this was the part of the fan base that screamed and yelled when they moved on from Rodgers. They're like, I don't want to wait anymore. I don't want to. Like, the business side of it will never admit to you that this is a rebuild. And the Jets have enough talent that doesn't look like a full teardown. But like you said, this is a house that needs a lot of work. It's a livable house because Garrett Wilson is here. Sauce Gardner is here. The offensive line looks pretty damn good right now.
Yep.
But man, and they might be a punchy 7-win team this year. And then next year, they might, the quarterback is the biggest variable, but the Jets might win 8 or 9 games. But this is really, they'll be where they want to be year 3. When you look at how the accounting is broken down financially, when you look at using their draft assets to get players into the scheme that they want to build, and hint, hint, the quarterback situation. This regime came into this year and said, number one, we don't like this quarterback class after Cam Ward, clearly. I mean, think about how many times they passed on Shedeur Sanders, right? So, and it's bigger than Shedeur. It's much bigger than Shedeur. They didn't talk themselves into Kyle McCord's our savior. Quinn Ewers is our savior. Will Howard is our savior. They punted on this quarterback class for a while ago, and they're sitting here and going, can we win games with Fields? Not can Fields win us games. Can we win games with Fields until we develop the infrastructure that we are confident in a quarterback coming into to win us games? That's how the Jets are doing this, because quite frankly, the previous regimes have thrown guys into, besides Sanchez, like since Sanchez, have thrown guys into environments that they weren't going to succeed in. They just weren't. Geno, Darnold, Zach Wilson. And no matter how what you think about those guys, and the opinions are all over the place on all of them, Wilson probably just couldn't play. Darnold is kind of somewhere in the middle. Like, yes, I know we're coming off the Darnold figured it all out season. I think that, yes, Darnold is a starting quarterback in the NFL. He just didn't live up to the billing of where he was selected, and in my opinion, won't ever. And then Geno, who had to wait around for felt like a decade. And
it legitimately was like a decade.
And Geno was a second-round pick.
Yeah.
Geno has outperformed in terms of being, since he's been a starting quarterback, a second-round pick. So, yeah, all of that to say is it was a very underwhelming offseason, but it was designed to be. Don't be fooled into thinking that something didn't break their way, or they set this up this way because they want compensatory picks, they want more assets, and they want financial flexibility. And that doesn't mean they're going to tear down the roster like we've seen so many times, because there's young talent here, but they need time to do things their way. And some people don't want to hear that, but that's the hard truth right now.
All right. 40 minutes, baby. We're back. Hopping over to War Room. We got a couple fun, more nostalgia questions and some more current ones. So if you're not subscribed yet, hop over to War Room. I forgot to do the YouTube mid-roll break, but if our video stopped at some point, it's because you got to get the full video at patreon.com.
Yeah. And if you're still watching it, you're smart and subscribe. You don't have to ever worry about any of that nonsense.
There you go. It's too late now. Next week, we'll get it. All right. Thank everyone for listening. I will talk to you soon.